So everyone is suffering from the cost of living. If you're an average Joe that works to provide for your family, yourself, and your house or whatever you're living in, you may realize is that it's a lot harder to fucking save any money of any kind. There was the lower class, middle class, and the higher class. But now it seems like that does not exist anymore. There's just poor and then rich. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but it does seem like being poor has become completely normalized. And I'm not sure if that's even a good thing because being poor, man, I've been there before. It really sucks. But I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like a lot of people these days have just given up on their income. Like they just kind of given up saving money. So for right now, they're just kind of living afloat, just kind of letting everything crumble apart. I do feel for a lot of you guys though, because everyone's trying to make the best of their situation. And I kind of understand because a few years ago, I do remember when I was door dashing, right? Because I was so broke that one time I had a DoorDash just to get gas money while on a low gas tank. And that shit is crying out like extremely poor because I remember I was taking risks in my early life to try to see what worked and what didn't. And unfortunately, this situation didn't work. But that was a really big wake up call. I do get that trying to achieve being rich is a very difficult thing to do, but I gotta say is that it's really hard, but it's also possible at the same time. But nowadays the system is kind of rigged against you if you're trying to do it the honest way. There's other honest ways you can play the system properly, but you just gotta think outside the box because the media and other people are just not going to tell you. And it's not really surprising either because I do find that in 2024 that 65% of people live paycheck to paycheck. Like that is a lot. That is literally more than half of the world, and it makes me wonder: is everybody okay? Like, holy crap! Like, I know my family is not very rich at all. I kind of come from a lower middle class family, and that was also on the poor side nowadays because I remember my dad was a teacher, and I remember back then my dad was telling me that he makes really good money because in 2008 I guess he averaged around like $3,000 a month, and 9-year-old me was like, holy shit, dude. Oh my god, dude, that is a lot of money. But nah, dude, it really ain't that much. But yeah, it was really interesting though to kind of look back and realize, damn, $3,000 in 2008 would be kind of nice considering those prices were back then. Like, don't get me wrong, $3,000 a month is pretty good for a single guy, but if it's for anyone with a family and whatnot, like, yeah, dude, that ain't gonna provide for everything that you need. You might need more money than that, at least $5,000 to $6,000 a month if you have some type of family, just to be comfortable. And I also gotta say too is that I've seen some very poor people living family conditions too, because I gotta say is that I went to go visit my girlfriend's parents' house, right? And apparently their family is not very good. They're very unstable, dysfunctional, but you have a parent sometimes. They kind of remind me of my parents in some ways because toxic fucking families suck balls. But anyways, we were over there and I realized that their place smells really musky, like cigarettes, really bad. They have hardly any type of furniture, and it's really scary too because like the walls are extremely like cheap and they're like have holes in them. It was really bad, dude. Like I felt bad for them, but it happens sometimes, dude. There's a lot of people who are very poor, but also got me realizing is like how the fuck did this person have a house? I also come to find out that she's living on SSI, and it makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, she doesn't even have a job and she kind of refused to work, which actually kind of finds it really confusing because she makes almost about $1,000 a month off the government, but then doesn't work a job. Like I don't know, man. Like that seems like lazy bum to me a little bit because all she does is just play Call of Duty all day. And I find that shit concerning because like what type of mom does that shit? But unfortunately, there's a lot of adults that are like this in the real world. Like I love to play Call of Duty and video games, but I cannot do it all day, every day like I used to when I was like fucking 14 years old. Like I kind of grew out of that when I was about like 17 or 16 because I wanted to do other stuff and I got into other hobbies. So for other people, like I don't understand how someone's in their 40s and they're doing shit like this. Like, yeah, in my opinion, I think it's a great hobby, but you gotta have a balance. I remember too, like my family did a really good job of trying to mask like us of not being poor because back then, dude, my mom actually got a house in a small town called Richmond, Missouri. We got a small house for like $400 a month in rent. Now, keep in mind the wages were different, but shit, dude, I remember my mom was making about $1,000 a week at Rosedale Barbecue, a fucking bar joint, and my dad was making some decent money too at his job. But I remember my mom didn't save a fucking dime because she didn't know how to budget her money whatsoever, and she also had to provide for us. But I also come to find out too that later on that I thought my mom and dad were rich, but they weren't at all because I remember getting a lot of food at home and shit. But then I realized there's a lot of the times they went to the food pantry most most of the time just to make ends meet. And I will say too is that my parents were very big consumers with alcohol and cigarettes. My dad and mom loved alcohol, and my mom fucking did a lot of smoking too. Like she'd buy a shitload of fucking cigarettes every day, would not budget anything. Like those little packs of cigarettes are like fucking $7, and that was before inflation. It's probably like 12 to 15 bucks now, depending on what brand you buy. Like shit, dude. Like I would love to like see what it's like to work in the 2000s a little bit. Like yeah, things weren't as high, but I bet it was a hell of a lot easier to save than it is now. What also really made this very irritating and frustrating is that like my mom and dad were boomers, right? So they come from a time where they could easily like save a lot of money and be able to buy a house off of basic entry level income. And the fact that my parents didn't save a dime of it just blows my mind, dude. Like what a giant wasted opportunity. Another thing I've noticed a lot too is that for the average person, a lot of people will make their lives a lot more harder financially by just constantly not questioning things when they're spending stuff on what they need. Like a lot of people will just blindly buy a car at a dealership and trust the dealership just because it's a dealership and it's not Facebook Marketplace or something. I think if you did your little bit of research of like interest and everything and how much you're paying in interest, how much you're going to pay back, and what percentage of interest you should go for, I do feel like that it would make your life a bit easier if you just learned a little bit. Like I do remember getting my first car, right? And my parents took me to this dealership they made me buy from because they did not want me to get it from anywhere else, which is so fucking dumb looking back. And when I got this car, it was a nice 2007 Chevy Cobalt. It was a really pretty car. It was in great condition and everything. But the problem is that the car that was already had 138,000 miles wanted payments up to $8,300. Now, the car payments were very doable at the time and everything. But I got to say, is looking back for such a used car, it's kind of a ripoff, dude. Almost $10,000 car for a car that was 10 years old at the time. Like, yeah, dude, looking back, that's not a very good deal. And nowadays, you can find this same car in Facebook Marketplace for like a couple $1,000s. But even back then, if you just like looked hard enough, you could find a decent one with a title and every little thing that's in good condition for about $4,000. A lot of things that run in my family too was financial abuse. Like, I remember with credit cards, my parents would pay the very minimal, which is absolutely not a good thing for the most part if you have a lot of debt. Like, if your debt's really small, it's fine. But if your debt is over like thousands of dollars, dude, the minimal payment ain't gonna do anything. You're just paying for just the basic interest level of for just using the credit card. It's just not a good thing to do. There was another time too where my girlfriend's mom was telling me some shit like, oh, if you want to be with my daughter long term, blah, 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 or if you really cared about her, that you should buy a car and then have it in your girlfriend's name and also lie and say that you're engaged and married. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because she was so poor that she wanted to break the law and was willing to carelessly break the law for no reason and try to encourage that shit to me. And I found that shit really fucked up. I'm just like, huh? Like, no, I ain't gonna do that. That's not even worth it, dude. Like, all these fucking banks, dude, if you fuck with the government when it comes to money, like, maybe the government lets a lot of things slide, but when it comes to money and stuff, no, dude, they're gonna come after you for that shit. At that level, dude, you're just playing devil's advocate with your life. Like, yes, there's a lot of things you need to do for money, but, like, you don't have to do some crazy shit like that. That's just like selling your soul and playing Grand Theft Auto. I also have another friend, too, that's also given up on just saving money. He just told me that he just spends all of his money on once just to kind of, you know, fucking cope with the 9-to-5 job that he has, because it's a job that he quote-unquote likes, but at the same time, he still does not like being stuck at this job, even though it pays really well. So he just buys a bunch of things and buys a bunch of skins just to cope with this time, and I find this shit a very terrible idea and a terrible thing to do. But I gotta say, guys, is that I remember making about maybe $3,000 a month after tax at most. We're living in a $1,000 apartment or more, having to pay other stuff too, like car insurance. And I gotta say is that I feel for y'all that are struggling paycheck to paycheck, because for the last 4 years I was paycheck to paycheck until the end of 2023. That's when I finally went ahead and worked my booty off at a crappy warehouse job just to get out of it. And when the middle class did exist, a lot of people seem to look back on it now with, like, you know, rose tinted glasses because it used to exist a lot more. But nah, dude, I remember being middle class and I did not like it one bit, because yes, you are paying for everything and you're sharing, but at the same time, dude, you carry the weight of everything. It's basically having the whole world on your shoulders and carrying the weight of just everything that functions in society with this job, because this job will pay you just enough to live, but not just enough to really get you that much more ahead financially. Because yes, you can like save money a little bit when you're a middle class, but it wasn't not like you're making exponential growth. Like you were steadily, slowly moving to the point where it was slower than a fucking tortoise in the hare type of race type of shit. Like it was really bad. It was kind of funny too because my dad was kind of bragging about how he was super successful as a teacher because he cared about status and what other people thought of him. But like looking back, dude, like yeah, it's okay to be a teacher and I think it's great, but nah, dude, most teachers nowadays still don't get paid that much. Like yeah, you get paid enough to, you know, pay the bills, but at my warehouse job I was working at, I was making the same money as him. And yes, I was not, you know, saving my body as much unfortunately, but you know, at least I wasn't mentally getting stressed out by high school kids. I guess you could say it's a double-edged sword. Now, I do hope that a lot of y'all also have a good place to stay that doesn't pay you as much high rent as other places because for me, I thought paying $1,100 a month in rent was really high alone, which it is, but in Missouri, it's actually on the cheaper side. But then I come across comments saying that like some people were paying like $30,000 for a luxury apartment in rent, which is one, really stupid, and two, it's like, what fucking area are you living in? Like, are you living in San Francisco, California? Or are you living in New York or something? Because, man, that shit is really high. Like, man, if I were me, dude, I'd be getting the hell out of that area just to fucking budget. Like, one thing I gotta say is that I am so grateful for my sister living with me now because, like, I may have not been paycheck to paycheck anymore, but, dude, this shit will make everything a lot easier to save. Like, I was saving around, like, $600 a month just living very frugal and limited, you know, going to food pantries and fucking just not buying shit, which is great. But now I can save about $2,000 when you combine it with the YouTube and the McDonald's job after tax and rent paid when you split it in half, which is amazing. But like I said, I still want to get a better job. I also do really hope that everybody else that's currently poor and struggling, dude, is that like I really hope you could find a way out of this situation because it's really difficult and I don't wish it upon anyone. But just try to take advantage of every opportunity that's given to you across from in your local area. Like go on Facebook, you know, look for groups or stuff about food pantries, anything that could benefit you and help you. And also try to prevent from buying anything that's like brand new from a local store if you're super poor. Like for me, I did Facebook Marketplace for some basic furniture and also knew some friends too. But for the most part, Facebook Marketplace, dude, has some really underrated finds. Now I will say too is that if you can go near an apartment outside your place or go to a really nice apartment area, sometimes a lot of people will throw a lot of fucking crazy nice shit near the dumpster. And sometimes like it makes you wonder like why the hell are so many people throwing so many nice shit away? But you know, I can't really blame them, I guess, if they ran out of the room. But you know, another man's trash is another man's treasure. Alrighty, everybody, thank you guys so much for listening, and you all have a good one. I'll see you in the next one.